That might have been the other one. Huh?
All right, so,
Yeah. So, and that's the building where they're gonna put the IA system. Now, and it comes into, you know,
Right.
what the system backlog is. She did apply for both the state and county, and in the past 3 years, they've been waiting, so what's gonna happen, what's gonna happen? So finally, I guess she basically said, well, no, we want to do this. We want to get, you know, an improvement in that building. And they have abandoned the county application because the county, and this floats into later, the counties, basically, they've got 3 years worth of stuff piled up.
Up in front.
I didn't realize, you know, I thought that they were working.
on us.
I did not realize that, I thought that the reason why things weren't coming through was just that it was still the hangover from the COVID.
Right.
It's not, they're not doing, you know, they're only doing failures right now. They're basically, they don't have money for the rest. So, I mean, I feel, my goodness, I've been telling people, okay, you're going to get 10,000 for the state, 10,000.
I mean, up until
Postcard initiative
this
and all
this
that.
information started to trickle out.
Yeah, yeah. So, but they are interested in moving forward. I spoke with Joan Crawford. That's really her name.
Boone Crawford, yes.
I know, isn't that cool?
Head of,
Yeah, yeah. And because of the two buildings, some of the entries in the application are actually kind of for the big building and not for the small building. So I was not sure whether or not I would want to just have her, that I could do the revisions that I have seen, have her and do an addendum on top of the application that says, here's corrections to the application, or do we want to just have her do a new application? And
What's exactly the matter with it? I mean, I
Depends on how
so,
involved it
so
is.
before you say that, I have a question.
surely,
When you have a subdivision, is it mandated by Suffolk County that they need to put in an IA system? Is this like the Bloom application or not?
I believe it is. I think this is except that both, remember in the Bloom, one was a failed unit, you know, a block, and the other was a conventional system. And the county said, conventional system, you know, you can't, we're not worried about the conventional system. It's the block system is why they wanted to, they required in order to do the subdivision officially through the county.
But is it mandated? Here's my hang up. If you're applying for a subdivision, does Suffolk County mandate that you put in a IA system? And if that's the case, can we fund a mandated septic system?
From my understanding, and I think it's true, is because of what happened on both the Bloom application, you know, there were two houses in the subdivision. The one that was a conventional system functioning well, the county said that's fine. But the failed cesspool was not fine. So, and in this case, the county, in Needham's case, the county said, you know, no problems with either system because they're conventional systems that you know, that.
Right, so they're not
only,
mandating.
they're only
They're
sent,
not mandating. Okay,
yeah.
all right, okay. That's my only question. When I saw subdivision, it was like, beep, beep.
It made you think of Bloom.
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense. So, what do you, and I guess, I don't know, you know, I didn't call legal. What, how complete and how correct do we have to have the
So, I mean,
documentation?
can you let us know what's wrong, what is wrong with it, the way it is?
Let's see, they have, they just put yes for what the action was, and the action is property line subdivision with no construction or expansion. They clarify, they had, there's been no clean out since 2019, but that's 4 years away. And that is the system that they'd be replacing. There is a mandated well, and I don't think that it said so in their application.
You may not have known it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's what happens.
And then the state and county grants, the applications were made, the county grant was held for over 3 years. They said, okay, forget it. We'll take Shelter Island and the state. And I guess from our standpoint, they have applied for both.
Right, no, and that's right.
We're good with that.
Both.
And then the finally thing is the water softener. I spoke with Matt Sherman and he said, oh, okay, there is a water softener. We'll have to set up a dry well for that. So that was about it. So I could take this summary of the revisions and attach it to a cleaned up, copy, or I could ask her to make those modifications.
I don't know. I think we understand. I mean, they're not like earth shattering things. I mean,
Yeah.
I would
Just as long as-
defer to what you're saying,
Somebody
probably
agrees,
attach
that's
that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I will do then. And my recommendation is that we approve this unless you want to see it at the next meeting. I'm not sure how you want to go with that.
I think, given the information that you have and what they want to do, I mean, I'd say, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the one that, it's too bad about the county and it's weird, I read in that information that, oh, well, if you're only going for the New York State one, you have to pay $465 extra.
Yeah.
Or they take it out of the grant, I guess.
Yeah, and it's, again, they're walking away from $10,000, which is.
You'd think that maybe in the interest of the intent of the whole program, you'd think that Suffolk County, oh yeah, we don't have the money, but at least we could process the application for nothing, because we would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody we can talk to about that, maybe Fred Deal.
So, I think at this point, they would receive the $12,000 base grant, and they would receive the private well relocation at $4,000.
Yeah.
So the total would be 16. I have not, what I'll do is I'll do the report to the town board and attach this information and send it on up for them to take a look at. Again, this is even, because I'm the one that made it controversial. It's much less controversial compared to the Bloom application. So, because they both of the buildings on the lot have a functioning conventional system.
No, it wasn't very, clear cut to begin with, probably, the fact that how that property is, it's a little wild.
When you go into GIS, you say, okay, let's see the property card. There's no mention of the second building. There's only the mention of the big building. It's like 5 bedrooms, and then it says, well, okay, so it says that there's 5 bedrooms.
The property card doesn't show that ranch house?
That property card does not have that. That's 10 St.
That was a pre-existing, that was what was on the property to begin with.
It was part of my, what the hell's going on here? So I will put that together. I'll shoot a copy to you so you can make sure that you see it. So I'd like to make the motion that we authorize and move it up to the town board then. I make that motion.
Second?
Can I just clarify, it's gonna be 12,000 plus 4,000 for the well?
Yes, that is correct. That's 16, right? I have that now, those numbers.
Yeah,
Any further discussion on it?
good.
Everybody in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right. Moving right along, to Bloom.
So that's,
These are all, the next 3 things are the increase in grants.
are we going
Or did
to,
you want to, you weren't ready to talk about Kraus, right?
Kraus, no, I only got it on
Right.
Friday.
okay,
So we're skipping scrap.
okay.
But we're,
So-
Bloom is, yeah.
So Bloom, this is just,
I can speak to this.
This is, these are people who had the
no,
lower.
I realize that, but as I clarified with Catherine, this isn't this isn't requesting, she hasn't put in a request for payment yet.
No.
Okay, so she just wants to get on the 12,000 schedule.
This was to correct the math, I believe.
Yeah, we did an update in 2023, back
Right.
in, I think, November, December.
Right.
And so these next three, when I was recently reviewing everybody who got increases and I was updating for year end, the spreadsheet, I noticed that Bloom was still sitting at 6,000. Homan was sitting at 6,000, so I think they just got left off of the old list when you guys approved. Yes, anyone who had 6,000 can now be moved to 12,000. And then Sash was my mistake because I looked at it too quickly and so said, okay, 6 to 12,000 plus well relocation.
Mhm.
They actually didn't request a well relocation. They
PST.
requested PST, which is not 4,000 for well, it's 5,000. So when they requested payment, I was looking at going, why are they requesting 17,000 when they're only authorized for 16,000? And that made me look back and say, oh, mistake.
So that's just a net of $1,000 difference.
These three are gonna be put on for a cleanup resolution on Monday night's meeting.
So Sash was paid. I remember.
Yes.
Not yet, I'm
No?
saying on it,
Oh, really?
because I can't pay it because the amount.
We didn't okay.
How about Holman? Was Holman?
Holman hasn't put in for payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neither has Bloom.
Correct.
Oh,
It's
I
just,
know,
it was purely just housekeeping cleanup they
Right.
missed.
So we don't really have to act on these, right?
No, just,
No.
no, because they already approved the upgrades, you know, the increases for everybody in that category.
Okay.
It's fine.
So Suffolk County, we touched on this.
Well, but I'd like to go into how this, and if this affects us in any way. So if Suffolk County doesn't pay 10,000 and they come up and request payment and the payment is, you know how it all adds up,
Mhm.
do we make up that?
No.
Okay.
We approved the 12,000, you know, or
Plus anything else.
16,000 or whatever it is. And their costs are more than likely going to be much more 10,000 more out of pocket than they were.
So the concern is for folks that can't just, you know, take the extra hit on this.
I mean, I don't know, you could have a discussion about, I guess if you could read the tea leaves, would there be a time that Suffolk County would catch up? You know?
They're 3.5 years
And would
behind.
there be some mechanism where you could, you know, front the money and then when the county pays, you get reimbursed? But that's a pretty tricky slope to get on.
I think there's two impacts of the whole deal with the county. For the people that have conventional systems and are sitting waiting for the county. We only reported what we knew. But that money for the next, who knows how long, you know, 3-4 years, it's not, you know, we said, you can get 10 us 12, you know, that's going to move you well towards, you know, a minimal,
So what you're saying, essentially what you're saying is that this could be a deterrent for people to step up and do anything voluntarily.
yeah.
That's what I just said before.
Yes, that's
And when
exactly
we did
right.
The whole postcard initiative with the little thing, you know, to encourage people. But I do see Meg, James Meg has her hand up for.
Meg, please enlighten us.
So here's the deal with the county. The county doesn't have enough funds to process the volume of applications they're currently receiving. So what they're doing is they're ranking them by failure status. So if you have, my video is being weird. If you have a block, brick, metal, anything weird system, they're considering that a failed system. If you have a collapsed system and there's like literally a hole in the ground, wastewater is open to the air, that's a catastrophic failure. Those two systems they will grant, but and they'll grant rather expeditiously, meaning a month or 2 months to process them. But if you have a precast system that was done sometime in the 80s or later, and or it was emergency repaired at some point and it's a precast septic tank, leaching pools, then you won't qualify to be expedited. So that means that, you know, even if we mandate, like the town mandates that someone upgrade their septic system, the county doesn't care that we're mandating it. That has no impact on how they view it. So if we mandate that someone upgrades their system and they happen to have a block or brick system, the county will still expedite their grant. If we mandate that they have to upgrade and they have a precast system, then they just go to the back of the queue and the county will get there if the county ever gets there. The reason the county is kind of taking this stance is because they don't have as much funding as the state. So the county will run out of money much faster than the state program will. So essentially, oh, and they're executed differently. So the county grant has to be fully executed and in place before any of the installation of the new septic system occurs. If you do any of the septic install before the grant is fully executed for the county, you lose the county funding. So that significantly delays projects. It holds up all kinds of things. So people choose to waive the county grant so that they can do it timely and then just go with the state grant, because the state grant can be processed as a rebate. So you can put the system in and apply to be reimbursed by the state. So those are the two big differences in the way the applications function. But the way the county processes them is they will approve the county grant first before they approve the state grant. So if people are in the queue just waiting for the county money, then that state money is also not getting processed. It's not until the homeowner says, hey, I want to waive the county grant and just go with the state grant, that then the county processes the state grant and releases their plan so that they can do the installation work. So if people don't know that, then they just sit in the queue forever. Some people don't mind because it's not necessarily an emergency. They just have an old system and they want to upgrade. And so they're willing to wait. But unless you have a failed or catastrophically failed system, you're not going to get a grant within the next 3+ years. That's just the trend that we're seeing. You know, I've had people who've been in the queue for a little over 3 years who just got a grant. And so anybody who comes in with a failure is getting bumped to the top. And so they're only issuing grants to people who are non-failures from the oldest part of the list if they don't have any other catastrophic failures at the moment and they think they have a little extra money.
So the catch-22 here is if somebody says, oh gosh, you know, I've been on the list, you know, I have another year to wait or more to get the county grant, but I want to get the system in. So we put the system in, so then they're no longer eligible for the county grant.
Correct.
You know, so us giving to try to advance will never get paid back.
Right. No, you won't be paid back. It won't work like that.
Who gives the stamps in order for us to go?
Health department.
The health department gives it, so it's not the county.
What's the county health department?
So yeah, there's two
Suffolk
different
County Health Department.
departments. So you have the Suffolk County Department of Wastewater Management, which issues the permit for the installation of the septic system. And you have the Suffolk County Department of Health Office of Ecology, and they're the ones issuing the grants. So the two programs work together and there's a whole set of checks and balances. So if you don't get sign off from the Office of Ecology and Wastewater Management before the system's installed, you lose the money. So you could get approval from wastewater, but not approval from the grant and think, oh, I'm good to go, install, and you lose the money. Until you have both the grant and the septic system approved, they, you know, technically they shouldn't release you the stamped dated plan unless you waive it. So you could have your plan and design sitting in the Office of Wastewater Management just as long as you have your grant application waiting, because they won't release your design until they've approved your grant and you've signed off on the contract.
So what I'm saying is, for us, part of our application process is that we have that stamped form, correct?
We wait for it
And-
before paying.
Right, and so if they're not gonna go that route, we'll never get the stamped form. So what happens to us?
So the wastewater management people.
They keep
They
going.
issue the stamp but, so we will get that.
Oh, we will, okay.
It has nothing to do with the grant part of it.
All right, I got it. Okay, it's all completely separate,
So,
completely.
so the only thing that, you know, and maybe it's too much of a logistical nightmare. The only thing you could do, I mean, it has been talked about, you know, long by many different people over the years about some sort of low-cost loan,
We talked about that.
Yeah.
you know, that would allow people to, who couldn't wait for the county grant,
Like a bridge loan?
you know,
type?
I mean, you know, but I guess the people who can't wait, you know, are the people who have the catastrophic or failing system, which they're gonna get paid. So maybe, you know, the people who are just waiting, you know, because they just want to do it, you know, maybe they're gonna eventually, I guess, get money.
It almost comes down to, you know, we were looking, you know, part of of this study was that we could get some.
Try to get people to do it.
Get people to sign up
And a lot of those people do have failing systems if you really get into it.
yeah, well, that becomes the question is that, you know, that we've got this information and what we thought would perhaps trigger some of the different zones to say, okay, you know, that if this is a challenge, this area is challenged. You would test your water, figure it out, and be prepared to decide.
Maybe after this investigation and you guys turn up the really heart of the triangle, you know, this glowing thing like the pulsating nitrogen, maybe there's an application that's made, if they do it in a group thing, that maybe there's an application made for this, you know, board to cover the cost that would have been covered by the county. I don't know.
You know,
I mean, there's a lot of pieces of this that would get.
that would be up to the town board to say, okay, do we want to try, you know, that recognizing that our goal in the WAC center triangle work, and in terms of whether or not that's a triangle and it's all going, you know, there are a lot of good wells here.
No, I mean,
A lot of bad wells.
it's not an easy smoking gun to like, aha.
It could also be that in that little cluster, maybe some of those systems are failing.
No, I mean, I would bet there's a lot of failing systems there.
If we knew, if we had more detail, and I just started to jump over into the WAC here, but if we had more detail of where was that 5.48
Right.
in the eighth zone,
Right.
you know, and then.
Is there a
say,
cluster?
why is everything around it, you know, in, you know, suitable water quality, except that one site? What's going on? I mean, but we don't have that precision of where the wells are. It isn't there.
Right.
You know, the town board may want, if they wish to, if they wish to, for us as the town to take a stronger financial position on getting not failing systems replaced, I think that we'd have to have two tier, we'd have to have two tiers.
Yeah,
You have a failing system, you can get 12 grand base. You have a conventional system, you can get 22. I mean, you know, that's an option because
Right, because-
yeah, the money's got.
But you come back to the thing, you know, we sent out all those cards and things, and Chuck Frous is the only guy I spoke to who actually supplied, you know, like.
But we didn't have this information at the time we did the initiative, so.
Well,
We didn't know about.
I mean,
We just learned about this, like.
I know, but we told you know, like, it's worse because we told everybody they'd get, you know, $20,000,
Right.
you know, because that's what we thought.
Yeah.
And now it's, and they didn't step up then.
Right.
So what is going to make them step up now? I mean, unless there's some, transfer of deed that makes you have to do it. I mean, it's going to be a bitter pill somewhere that's going to make this happen.
All in all, systems, wells that were delivering water that was not potable is 4% of the triangle. It's six of the there's 158 tests.
That's not potable by Suffolk County Health Department standard, the 10?
That's above 10. Above 10. And then there's a whole bunch in that, there are a lot where it's 6.7, whatever it
I
may
mean,
be.
but you have, there's somebody put a note on there that, that standard may well be reduced.
That is correct,
Or,
yes.
or toughened.
Yes, and that's certainly true. I know who put it on there. The guy's an idiot.
But anyway, going back to the county and its and the money, I mean, to me, you're like adding insult to injury. I mean, it was sort of their initiative that, they were worried about the bays and whatnot, and this whole program sort of began that way, and I guess, through New York State as well. But to then, okay, we're not giving you a grant, and now we're going to charge you to manage the New York State grant. That seems like,
Yeah, insult.
is that something that Fred Thiel could maybe stick his nose into, or no?
Well, he's on the state side. I feel like we need to get the county
Right.
moving.
I mean, they were doing it when they're giving the $10,000, they were doing the state for nothing. Now they're not giving the $10,000, but they're charging for the state. And if they, and they're saving, they're actually, if they process that and get it done and in the ground, they're saving $10,000.
See Meg again.
So it makes not a lot of sense. Meg?
You're
What
muted.
they're doing is, instead of waiving the $750 permit application fee for the design for the wastewater, they're charging $450 or $420 or whatever it was instead of the $750. So when you change and you just do the state application, you're getting a discount on your wastewater permit, but you're not getting the full discount that you did get when you got both grants.
They still have to pay the 700?
No, that's what she's saying.
38.
700 is out?
458 or something. It was some weird
You know,
number. You would have
yeah,
had
if you-
You'd think they could just waive, keep it the same,
You'd
because
think,
they're not getting money in, but they're not laying the money out either.
right. Yeah, so they're only waiving a portion of the permit fee instead of waiving the entire permit fee like they do if you get both grants. Which
I
is.
mean, I don't know that this will change the people who are on the fence waiting, for as much money as they can to do this. It's a drop in the bucket, but I don't know. It seems to me that's, every little bit helps. And if your thrust is to get these systems in the ground, you do everything you could.
Yeah, we could, how much does it cost, Meg, to determine whether or not a system is a block system? Is technically failing because of its construction? Is that $500 to $30? What?
Maybe it's, okay.
I was gonna say, it's between 500 and 1,000. It depends on how complicated it is to find it. Because what you have to do is you have to dig up the system, you have to open it, you might have to pump it a little bit to see what it is. And then that's how you certify. You take photographs of the system itself, the house in the background, proof of the street it's on. There's a whole process, but really you have to dig up all the components, maybe pump them out and then certify what's there.
Yeah,
If you have to pump them out, that's like $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
50.
yeah, that's, it's not, we thought that this was going to provide information to say, okay, the homeowner would say, I want to do this then, because I understand.
Right.
Also,
I mean,
I'm
you have
I'm only 1 milligram below.
you have a pretty good idea. I mean, people have records if work was done on their system generally. you know, or if they don't, nobody knows anything about anything, and I've lived in the house for 50 years, you can figure that it's probably a failing system.
I guess, what is the time frame is like the 1975, whatever,
1980 roughly, I think.
1980. So all of the systems older than 1975, say, are probably,
Yeah, I mean, there was like a mix
Structurally.
probably then.
yes.
Also, if you think about it this way, if, when we increased our own grant, we did it based on facts that Amber helped us do the averages of what.
What it costs.
Really, and remember, Meg had said that, you know, all the materials, the cost with inflation, everything went up. So it's only going to continue going up. And then if you're missing this one component of the grant, you're only having 2 of the 3 pieces available. I'm saying for some people, like, of not the right financial means, it's going to be a deal breaker. I mean, they're costing like 30, 35, look at the applications,
Yeah,
now,
right,
30,000, so. Some people know it's not a big deal, but
Is the grant money, is the county money federal money? Do they get it from, where does the county money come from? Does anyone?
I think the county executive led that, and I thought it was county money.
it's county.
But where, is it part of taxes?
Taxes,
Is it?
sales tax.
Come from the, yeah.
I'm not sure where it comes from.
Amber? Meg?
Meg would probably know better. I know that they were trying to do an extra percentage tax, and the legislature did not put it on for a vote this last year. But Meg, you might know the answer to the first part of the question.
You know, it was established quite a few years ago, and I don't exactly remember where it's coming from. But the reason why they haven't ramped up the number of grants they're issuing is because they were hoping to come up with a renewable funding source. So right now, it's not a renewable funding source. So when they run out, they're gonna run out. And so the hope was that it would have been on the ballot for a referendum and people could have voted on that 1/8 of a percent or 1/8 of a penny, whatever it was, sales tax. But that's really the glitch, is until they figure out how they're going to continue to fund the program, they can't ramp up issuing more grants, which is why they're using the failure criteria.
So it's a kind of a political thing. When they run out of money, then, you know, you have to like pass a bill or something to fund it, you know? And so, yeah, without it being renewable, you know, it gets.
I guess, Meg, as far as we know, it's the same criteria that is here for us, and that if you're only paying for failed and catastrophically failed systems. That's true in Southampton, East Hampton, et cetera?
No, Southampton and East Hampton have different criteria. They have far more WQI money than we do.
Okay, I'm sorry, the WQI, but
Yeah.
the county does it the same.
Yes,
They're not-
the
they're
county
not-
processes the entire county the same. They don't look at
Okay.
any area differently.
And East Hampton and Southampton have beaucoup dollars,
Yeah.
Assume they have more.
and they're taking money from us. Damn it.
That's it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's no real answer here except to,
Well, we're not in a position to increase our grant, we just made an increase, and the bridge loan concept, we only.
I mean, it would be very hard, you know, you know, that
God bless you.
Bless you.
I could see if people were banging on the door, you know,
Right.
wanting these systems, and you know, all of a sudden they find out, well, the grant money is not so forthcoming from the county. Then there'd be a push. Well, can we fill in that gap somehow? But right now, there's really no gap because there's nobody.
Well,
Unless they're just waiting, unless those people are just, but they've already applied, most of them.
yeah, and we made a decision on people not wanting to spend money to do the test. I mean, we could say, if your milligrams per liter on your water test out of your current well, regardless, whatever type of you know, even a conventional system, if your well is delivering water that's only 2 or 2.5 milligrams per liter away from a non-potable, you know, maybe the town would say, okay, you know what, maybe we ought to like take the action for that house only, and say, okay, we're we're going to provide, if the water that you're pulling up is really close to being non-potable, you know, it's not just there, it's moving east, west, south, or north, you know, so
Well, then-
that would be something that.
Then you'd have to mandate that they turn in their results to you.
Right, and that's, you can't.
Yes,
And then it gets a little stickier here, you know, and then you're gonna say, okay, well, we're not gonna let you drink that water, you know, or we're gonna make you, we think that this is gonna help you. I mean, I think this conversation more leads to finding a way to get them good water
It's also-
than doing their septic system.
I also think it's something along the lines of when you're faced with an issue of water in your well and you're having a problem, you're very involved in it and you're aware of it. And I think a lot of folks are just going about their business, they're working, they don't think about that postcard that we sent out, we thought we'd be getting in
Right.
loads of applications.
Yeah, I mean, we were
I
gonna
think-
help them.
I think it's only an issue when you don't have potable water and you're thinking about, like I'm in Silver Beach and I get water in my basement every time it has a heavy rain. So I'm super sensitive and thinking about this all the time. But if you're not, if you're not having the issue where you don't have clean water, you're just not thinking about your neighbor, you're not thinking about, you should be, but you're probably just not. I think that's, that's part of it too. Like, there's no real push here to,
I don't know exactly what.
I think that we should think about it and just, come back and, the town board.
I mean, if there
The
were,
town board may discuss this and say, okay, they may ask us to look into some aspect of this. I don't,
I mean,
because we can't, we can't blow the whistle. We can't.
whichever way you go, whether it's, making everybody put in septic systems or somehow providing municipal water, or, they're all hard choices and hard things to deal with.
Yeah.
Because you're making people do things, and it's,
right, but they do deserve to have potable water. And I think
they do
it's almost
deserve, they
like-
do deserve to have potable
Shelter,
water, yes,
water.
but I mean, do they, I want to live, but I want to pay for it either.
That situations where we're mandating it because of something,
I
we.
That's maybe the only way that,
Yeah,
this happens universally. I mean, unless, when people have this stuff bubbling up in their lawn, that makes them think about it, and
That's what I'm
and then they get into it, or there's a giant sinkhole out there and their dog fell into it,
We,
and then they become focused on it.
So we just find the honey bucket and steal a couple of 5-gallon pails and throw it in people's backyard.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh, man, looks bad to me.
there's been a myriad of articles and, talk and information and symposiums and.
But a lot of people aren't going to those things, I'm telling you. You'd be
Well,
surprised.
okay, so now there's mandatory attendance, but, that's.
You can lead them to the water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah, and-
Or they do drink it, the problem.
Ridiculous.
They are drinking it.
That's a lot of water on that.
But these are things that are maybe beyond our ability to do, but, if all of a sudden there's more applications that they,
Yeah.
that are waiting for county grants, then maybe we think harder about some kind of low-cost loan, but, for the county's part, they're not,
They don't seem too concerned.
they're not too concerned. They're either gonna save the $10,000 or eventually pay it out.
So carry this over to the next meeting perhaps, and, because we may.
Well, I think it's something we just have to keep an eye on,
Yeah.
and maybe, is there a way to lobby for the renewable funding? I don't know.
That's one.
Maybe maybe that's something that should have some investment put into it.
Legislation.
Go meet with people and start talking about it, because this one thing is holding up this whole thing. I think,
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely right.
Something you can bring up with Ed Romaine, the next, the group that you're in, I forget, sorry.
East End, well, yeah,
Well, that would be Suffolk County Mayor.
Maybe PEP could get involved in this too, anybody who has a vested stake in this kind of thing. They're concerned with tidal wetlands, everything eventually goes in there. So I think it's something we all have to think about and work on. Okay, the financial report. Here we are.
It's out for you. It's
Yeah.
in small print, but
That's good, though. You can read it.
I can share my screen so that that may be now, but they probably would like to see it. It's in SharePoint under the WQI analysis, WQI analysis, that SharePoint page. Just see if I can.
And the next time, just for the ease discussion, could you do the row and column headings on the print? I presume this is Excel, yes?
Yes.
That way you could say, I don't understand this point, it's row 12, column 5,
Oh, okay.
I find that,
Mhm.
when things are, when you're either talking on cell phones or whatever it may be.
Just to like give you if you look at the 2024 column, oh wait. The 2024 column, we rolled over 2,041,000 in funds. And we released for grants for septic as well as Cornell Cooperative Extension, we released 95,000 from what had previously been approved. We ended up expending 31,484 in grants so far and 46,259 to the Cornell Cooperative Extension. So that means we've got 2,059,000. So that little bit of change means that there were 17,000 in grants money that we had set aside that we didn't actually have to expend. A couple thousand here, a few thousand there. So we have funds to be carried over to future projects, the 2,059,000, and set aside for specific projects is 678,512. So 678,512 is what we have set aside for projects. And total unspent funds, so money in the bank is 2,737,000. So if you did want to try and increase the grants, you do have a little over $2 million.
I think that would be a collaborative thought, maybe. I mean,
It's,
how
amount of-
much is the town willing to do, and is that the direction that they want to go, or is there a different direction that, maybe a deed transfer thing and you get a grant, to do it then, also, as a separate kind of thing, as opposed to people voluntarily coming forward.
It's something on the order of 280, at $10,000 a pop, it'd be 270 properties that we could support at 10,000 a pop.
We haven't even gotten that in 1 year.
Right. But, maybe if thing got, I say deed transfer, but maybe there's something else that would trigger. Maybe those people would get a lesser grant than the people who came voluntarily, but they would get something to offset their costs.
Yeah, you also have, it adds a whole new wrinkle.
And an unpopular,
Well, it adds a wrinkle to the people that have already gotten here, now, okay, I didn't, it was complicated enough to get these things corrected, like the Bloom sash and Holman. It was tough enough to get that resolved. Imagine now you're gonna say, the county grant issue it seems like it would really be a pain in the. Yeah, I saw somebody's head say, yep.
Maybe the committee could look into WQI loan program. Like a 1% or a 0%.
Right, that's what-
0% interest.
That's who we
So
used
if
to
they
have.
forego the county grant and not wait for it, there would be funding there.
Well, that's what I was saying, that
We
would
talked
be,
about it before.
something that could be,
We've
and,
talked about it for years now.
I mean, I just talked about it a couple minutes ago, but
It hasn't really materialized. I don't, as an option, maybe we could look at it seriously, what other towns have maybe done,
Yeah,
implemented and how it's worked.
I'd be, we got two banks on the island here, right? I mean, I'd be willing to go to the bank and ask that, but it would be really helpful if there was I wouldn't want to go as a member of the WQI unless there was a town council I think it would be,
or are you talking about an internal loan?
I'm talking about internal, WQI.
What we were just talking about before,
Not a bank.
a bank loan,
not a bank.
No, the WQI fund.
that a portion of that would be
But just
used
look
for,
at the logistics, what other towns have done.
Oh,
That's
Meg
worked.
has her hand up again.
Yeah.
0% or whatever, then they have to pay it back. I don't know if that gets tied in with the tax bill, a covenant, I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll try and look, I'll try and see what other people have done. I know that there are towns with something like it, a low-cost loans.
I think some of the islands off the coast of Rhode Island and Massachusetts have something like that. But I don't know that they're self-doing it. I think they're, that a bank is providing the money and the town is paying, for the interest level, because the bank isn't doing it for free. So, you're putting in a little bit of money, say.
Right, but I mean, we have enough money, at the moment to be able to do a program internally that, that doesn't cost us money,
Yeah, the money comes back ultimately.
comes back, with enough maybe to cover the administrative costs of it.
I think Meg may have.
Meg, yeah.
Meg's up again. I mean, I didn't ever pay attention there.
Why I'm looking.
So Suffolk County does already have a low interest loan program associated with the septic grants. And it's done through CDCLI. It's the same, it's the same as housing. It's the same bank, that same organization. So they also do the low interest loans, like a bridge loan for the septic systems. So they're one program you can look at to see what their model is, but theirs is a 0 to 3% interest rate, depending on your income. It's something like that, I believe. I don't know if it's shifted recently, but last I looked, that's what the percentage was. And it tended to be a short-term loan or a long-term loan. You work it out with them on what you can afford and how much you need based on, the grants you've received and then what your expenses are after the grants. So they are one established program that you could check out.
I just looked online, Meg, it says it's at 4%.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. I haven't looked in a while because honestly, not many people go for it. I usually tell everybody about it and most people opt out. It's even on the Suffolk County grant application. One of the last questions is, would you like to receive information on a low interest loan through CDCLI? And a lot of people check no, but.
I mean, the reality, I want to be a naysayer here, but you're not getting people stepping up when they're getting the funding source. So you're going to ask them, would it help if you took out a loan to do this? I don't know.
I have a.
The only, I'm just,
Maybe,
the county grant, but the county program that you're describing, Meg, the county grant would have to go through the process to receive the county grant, correct? My thought was, if you wanted to avoid that, waiting 2 years to put it in the system, to take out a no interest loan from the
Right.
WQI and get the state grant.
Right.
But my point is though, that,
That's all, as an option.
my point is that when people were thinking they're getting both grants, up until just recently, people were thinking that's what we were telling people, even that is not getting them to step up, So offering them, oh, well, you're not going to get the county grant, but you can take a loan. Who wants to do it now? I don't think you're going to get any more people than we already did.
Greg, you want to know about the time, so I'm letting you know it's.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we got to hurry up now. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should talk to Ed Romaine and work on trying to get sustainable funding. I think that's probably a good way to go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see, I've just been plugged in on some emails, listening to the WAC, and you correct me if I'm misinterpreting what I heard, was that the potential exists for an initiative to do further well water tests in the center?
They would like to do, the majority of the WAC would like to do more. If the decision is made to do more, the protocol that we followed here with the different zones, it's looking at, it's trying to read a book from 50 feet, I mean, there's not, there is information that resides with those individual homes that would be really helpful in knowing what's going down under.
So going forward, you would try and get the actual address?
If people don't want to do it, don't want to, say, give their results, then fine, you don't have to do it. We're not going to make you invest your well.
Has anybody asked the people who did the tests, would you mind sharing your address?
Nobody yet. And Meg, what would your thought? Do you think that what people would say? If we sent out a letter to each of those people or an email, if we had an
Why?
email.
Explaining why.
Yeah, and say, that we would love to include you in some more detailed analysis.
I just want to make one point. Most of the time when Meg's weighing in, she's weighing in as a member of the public
Oh,
because
right.
of her business background. But now you're switching her over to a town board question, and we're the liaisons. So in this
I
part,
thought she was sorry.
she and Ben should not be participating. So I
Okay,
just wanted to point that out. And even on the minutes, it's historically put Meg down, town officials present in that
Right.
line when she should actually be on the Zoom attendees.
Okay.
okay, that's fine.
So I don't want her to, I'm just trying to really play by the rules
Okay.
this year. So she's gonna
Oh.
be answering that question.
I mean, your point,
It's something that whoever, WAC, you should go back to WAC, which is why we have a WAC member on it.
Yeah.
To get the answer.
yeah. Well, I don't know that they would know.
But then the liaison, Meg, might know.
Right. Exactly.
She's allowed to talk there.
But anyway, I think I get your point, and going forward, if we did this in a broader, another round, let's call it, I think you could come back to this committee, I would think, and ask for the money to pay for that again.
Yeah.
Which, I think it's fine.
The reason that I agreed that we would pay for this is that it was our stewardship. We've got $2.7 million. We're not enough is happening on getting IA systems in the ground. I don't know that given what we got out of this, it's, and what we're learning now about county grants and, failures and, I don't know what it would be useful for from the standpoint of the WQI reason to be. Now, the WAC, they're, doing this, they're paying for it.
Well, if they think.
That would be all right.
Again, our purview is to vet proposals. The point of this discussion is just to say that, we could be amenable, to another grant request to do this, and maybe it's tailored better so the information is more precise and more usable. You know, I mean, the good thing about the first one is you learn something that maybe it has to be more targeted.
Yeah, well, you know.
And maybe you reach out to these people, you know, that everybody, you know, you have to do it en masse and ask them for their help.
Yeah.
You need help.
Well, it's one of those things of where when you do a test like this and then you say, okay, and I, you know, that I lost some hair. I, you know, scratched my head saying, what the hell is going on here? That if we can't identify the 22 Winslow Street, whatever the hell the name is, you know, because there may be you know, there's what's going on? Why is that so much higher than other things?
But you're gonna run into the same problem, which that people want their privacy, and some people don't.
Some people, you know, like,
You know, that's.
We would like to know, but some people don't wanna let others know. That's,
Purposely structured the way, you know, that the town never got the
Right.
results, so that
Right.
it could never be foiled via us. So, I mean, we went to great efforts to try and increase participation.
it seems to me, you know, like just not as a committee member or anything, if somebody came up and asked me if, you know, we'll do a free water test, you know, would you want that? You know, we want to catalog every property along here. I wouldn't care.
If everybody that says no and say, fine, that's.
But any educated buyer is gonna find out anyway. You know,
And the bank-
they're not gonna buy the house without a water
But
test.
can I just say it's kind of a shame though, because even if there is a problem with the property, it's changeable. You can, you know, you can spend the money and you can fix it. It's not like a scarlet letter on you forever or something.
I think if you're getting a mortgage, the mortgage person's gonna say, so tell me about your
Even if
water
you have
test.
cash, you know,
Yeah, but even-
you know, you're not gonna wanna buy a house that can't drink the water. You know, I mean, anybody who has common sense at least.
Yeah, well, so you can drink it if you do
Anyway,
it with enough gin.
so that was the point of this, you
Yeah.
know, and so.
That's the anonymity, is it?
So the numbers that we ultimately came out with was that there were 158 votes or tests. 6 were above 5
Yeah.
out of 158, which is about 4%. 59 were in that 5 to 10 milligram, which is 37%. So that gives you about 41%. You know, the 41% in this is non-potable and this is, you know, subject to an increase in the future if something doesn't happen. 56% were below 5. Now, as I say, some of the counts that we had, you know, the zone 1, we had 5 wells tested. So there's no statistics, you know, your top and bottom of a chart. You'd say, okay, you know, it could be that I don't know how you can't play with those numbers. Even when you have say 19 or 23 samples. I guess 23 samples is something, but you don't know exactly where they are, so that you wind up with this big shmush of it's somewhere in there. We are going to develop, Ken Peischer and I think it's going to be, we're going to try and develop a population density, you know, on this, so that may be a little helpful to.
So each of those colored sections will have the density.
Yeah, we'll have the density,
So
so
that may answer some questions.
that may help and say, okay, well, you know what, 9 and 10 zones have the highest concentration of properties, of homes. You know, that, and Joe is working on this as well. Right now, we don't have the town buildings in this study. We had a couple of numbers, but they were not, it's just, in hindsight, it would have been good to have done the town wells at the same time as we did all the others, because it just cleans the results. Like I see, Betty, you're saying, yeah, you should have done that. Where were you 6 months ago?
Oh,
Just-
hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is to take that population density and put it over the flow that map of the flow
Yeah.
and see how that affects
So-
everything.
So in terms of the future and it is on water testing, it's not the way we did it this time. I wouldn't support that. Of course, you guys may, and that's fine too. But there is right now, very actively, there's a subcommittee in the WAC. They are working on putting together a letter which they would like to send to everybody in the triangle, in the study area. But then there have been people saying, well, that's not the only spot. If whatever this letter says, you may want to shoot it out everywhere. There are other people who think that it would be better to finalize the town, report on here's what we came up with in terms of this study and present it to the town board and say, here's this information, and
But you got to figure out how to get that.
yes, you got to work that out. The letter itself, I believe that it'll wind up coming to the town board shortly, which without, there is a difficulty if you're not looking at how the results of the study reported. Yeah, we're getting.
Before we get too far past the witching hour, Amber, want to speak to the
Right.
projects?
Yes, and I can do that in minutes.
You recall when, BJ was here and, we had come up with, similar to the CPF, they needed to do an acquisition plan. And not dissimilar, we needed to do like a projects plan that we would support, sort of. And we had come up with a number of things and, but then it got lumped into the
Yes, it
CPF report.
It was included with the CPF acquisition plan, so that's back, getting worked on. And the town board on Tuesday decided it made more sense to bifurcate the two. So CPF will have its own acquisition plan, WQI will have a projects plan. And so Appendix F out of the current draft of the CPF acquisition plan is new. And the first few pages are just the resolutions that establish the WQI. So I quite frankly would have put them just as an appendix in the
Right.
back. So the page that's really important is the last page of the handout that you got, which just talks about 9 different.
This is the list that we did with BJ.
Yes, okay. So it just needs to be updated. I forwarded to Catherine both East Hampton's plan, which is a little out of date, and Southampton's plan, which I believe is more current. Just to take a look at. They have, let's see, East Hampton has a natural resources department. We do not have that. So 149 pages from the natural resources department is one thing. But just to give you a sense of the types of things that other towns are looking at, so that she will forward that on to you.
That's great. Maybe number 2 might be replaced with IA systems in the municipal area.
Yeah, or review
Right.
either centralized or IA, depending what is the best.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
you
centralized
know,
is probably out.
if the C word is not dead, then,
Well, it probably is because the Van Ring Road site is now going to be used for
Right.
housing, so there is no place to do a centralized unless another location is found. But
right, unless, there was a bunch of different scenarios, but yeah. I mean, I think something is better than nothing, and maybe the IA thing
yeah,
is a way to think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a way to, I don't know, but it gets that would be thinking too complicated.
I mean, the whole, the benefit of the IA systems near the municipal buildings. You can't complain, I don't think you can complain if you're adjacent to one of those municipal buildings and say, okay, yes, we're going to put it here, but it's going to be 6 times less contaminated and it's going to keep everybody's water in the neighborhood is going to be better.
It's not a complete answer, but it's much better, so that was the thought that the school had just going forward, let's get it done. And if there was ever a time there was a centralized system, they could pump what they had into that. But, maybe we won't get there.
if you look at page 15 of East Hampton's plan, when you get it, one of their proposed projects is the planning, design, construction, or modification of sanitary wastewater treatment system in order to reduce, eliminate discharge pollutants, or the replacement or upgrade of existing unsafe
Right.
wastewater. So it doesn't.
So you could have a choice there.
You're not directing what the answer is, you're just saying
Right.
either could be funded.
So are you asking, we're
We're gonna review this and we're gonna
review
make our own
those other
plan.
two, all right, and.
We're gonna take this as a base maybe, and then look at these other towns and then make our own plan that's separate from the CPF.
Yes.
Is there a time involved
Soon.
here? What, how, do we have till June or what?
You can come to that conclusion next week, decide what you think the time will be, and then.
Personally, I think we should because you can update this next year.
Mhm.
I mean, so if you say here,
Preference,
No.
importance, no, it's just a random,
It's
it's just a
just a
list. a blanket
Scattershot list, yeah.
so I mean, we're,
Except, right?
so I think we should get it out of the way as soon as we can.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Um,
we'd like sooner rather than later, but
Before you break, I'd like to just say one thing, no discussion, because I know it's other time, but I've been out of it for a couple of years here, and, a lot is going on, I think you guys have continued to work in a great fashion. Mike, I don't need discussion, but my only question is, you had a subdivision here in Suffolk County, said the system had to be replaced with an IA septic system. Then you had another project recently that was added 25% was increased on that. And that's in our town code, those two aspects. I just caution you, starting at Preston. I mean, as we know, the town has been sued, the large houses, not to switch categories, but it's the same idea. But the judge said you approved 39 of these beforehand, approve this one.
Mhm.
Be careful of precedent, and why are you doing that? The code says one thing, why are you venturing away? But that's it, we don't have to discuss it, I don't want.
The one thing that you said, we did, you have now in your possession a letter from a recommendation that we made about that 25% thing. To be mulled over, I mean, you can come to the real, no, we don't want to do that, and our thrust is to get, speaking specifically to that, a system in the ground when it's not going to cause a greater load of, of a design flow on a piece of property. If it was like 25% worth
Tell
of
me
bed,
about the next owner, James. Tell me about the next owner in that house.
okay?
I mean, that's why I don't want to.
And the next owner in that house, they already have the system in, that's great, but
I'm just saying, if the code says one thing, why not stick to the code? That's all. Don't take it upon yourself to say, well, you know what? That's all. I know.
And we approved it with the caveat that we were gonna put a recommendation. We knew there was an issue. And you guys can, in your infinite capacity and of ruling on things, you can say, no, we're gonna stick with the code,
I get that.
but we feel, when there's a project that is, it's a renovation of an existing space and not a crazy one at that, and they're ending up with the same number of bedrooms, what's the big deal?
Also,
It's an opportunity. You're arguing against yourself. I don't want, we can go on. I'm just saying people aren't coming forward to put the IA systems in the ground.
Correct.
So if our code authorizes a system to be put in the ground, why are you not taking advantage of that?
We can't pay for those systems that the town is mandating that they go in the ground.
Exactly. So you are paying for the two systems that I described.
Yes,
And there's a chance that they would have to be put in the ground without the town paying for them because it's in our code. So now you're choosing to pay for them outside of what the code says.
But I think it's a case of, Albert, that we're looking at some of these pieces of the code and we're finding a weakness in it. And over time, codes lose their efficiency if the times are changing. So all we're asking a town board to do is to relook at it and see if it can be tightened up.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get to be a more specific thing.
You make a recommendation, the town board has.
Right, you know, so-
I'm only imparting my feelings.
We're going to the
Setting
letter,
precedent.
we're going to the letter of the legislation that says, if you're increasing, you know, the density load on a piece of
No, it
property.
said increase the 25% of the building structure. James,
Well, you're not putting more, okay, you're not putting more people.
I didn't want to get into this.
Well,
with
you know, you gotta be careful when you say something, you know, when you're making the bathrooms nicer, or you're
What about
giving,
the next owner.
what about
Tell me
them?
what about him?
So if he's gonna add on, if he decides to add on,
You don't know if they're gonna reconfigure and put in a bathroom. You don't know that.
well, if he does, the system's
I
in,
mean,
so.
But I digress. The main point is a precedent. That's all. You're setting a precedent.
Well, we
You're
didn't,
giving somebody the
we didn't
opportunity.
set a
Well, you did
precedent.
it over here. I want it.
Well, we
That's all.
didn't set the precedent. We just put our recommendation in
Okay. the town
with the
board-
recommendation
The town board
that,
set the
you know,
precedent, yes. That is-
that we,
To take a look at the
to
weaknesses.
take a look
see
at the
if we can-
weakness in the code, where, to refine it more, where you might be more specific about what that 25% increase is. Is it a bigger kitchen where they had a little nook that they had a stove and a sink and they made a nice kitchen? You know, that could be 25%,
Right.
you know?
And wait, can I add one other thing? That property, they put in a Sen 5. So.
They weren't
the next
going for a
owner
bigger.
Can't really go much bigger, and they already have the IA system in, so it is a benefit to the next owner when they sell this thing. But they're limited at a Sen
I'm not
5.
trying to argue with you.
No, I'm not trying to argue. I think our goal, I think it's a
Precedent
mutual goal.
Is a problem.
You know, I think we're on the same page that we want to see as many of these systems in the ground as we can, right? I think. Maybe that's not your goal.
My goal is to get as many in the ground as we can.
Okay, so then we're on the same page. And so how we get
Within
there.
the framework of the structure.
Right, so I'm trying to say, let's make the structure a little more, you know,
Accurate?
accurate to what people are wanting to do.
I think the thing that we're trying to say is that the town, the building department or whatever, whoever decided the 25% law doesn't necessarily see it from our perspective. And what we're trying to say is, hey, you know, when it comes to IA systems, maybe you should tweak what the verbiage is so that we can include this. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not necessarily setting a precedent. Well, it is, but it isn't. We're just saying tweak the verbiage so that it meets the IA system requirements. That's all. We see that it's too broad. It's too loose.
And this has come up in a lot of other cases. This whole year has been about the public, residents really being outraged about how many weaknesses are in the code. So I think in all the list of how you're going to be going through and changing a lot of
Let's not
code, this,
talk about the code.
well, no, I'm just saying, but this could, well, let me.
Well,
just-
we didn't bring it up.
Well, let me just finish my thought. I'm just saying that this is something that you guys can look at, so.
I don't want weaknesses.
Anyway, you know, I think, yeah, your point could be, okay, well, then they don't do their addition or whatever they wanted to do, if they don't want to put the system in. I mean, you could leave it at that, and they just
They can wait.
stay the way it is. And the next owner can deal with it. I don't know. But from our point of view, we're just trying to get systems in the ground, or any kind of improvements, we're happy to deal with. Which brings me to my last thing. My old business was what you just talked about. Did anybody see it was on, I think it was on Sunday morning on Channel 2, they had this segment about reclaiming urine for agriculture.
I did see that.
Did
Or
you see it?
I read it. or
You know, I
did-
mean,
saw it.
you know, things like the school,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah, I saw that.
it was, you know, like people, you know, it's like the guy's in business, he picks it up, he takes it, you know, they do what they do to it, and then he brings it to the farmers because it has all phosphorus and nitrogen in it, you know, and they want it.
Isn't that what Gobler was suggesting? When he
Maybe.
looked at our
Gobler?
system?
I don't know.
Yes, it was, and we looked into it, and the only place where they have a processing treatment plant or something was up in New Hampshire or Vermont.
Right, I mean,
And
that's what this
the
was about.
cost to truck the human bio waste that far was insane.
What is it, a biohazard at that point?
Yeah, it's a biohazard. It's because it's so concentrated. And, it's biologic human waste. So
Yeah.
it has a whole different regulatory interstate
Yeah.
transport
But you would think if
complication.
it's a viable process and a money-making thing, that it could happen somewhere else. I mean, I'm just putting that out there. I mean, you know, like,
It's a funny segment,
Yeah.
really, but interesting.
It may be the future, it's just, we don't have the infrastructure in place yet.
pretty soon it would be like on Dune. On that note,
Yeah.
may I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Motion to
Second, all
adjourn.
right, thank you all.
All right.